All right. Welcome everyone to another amazing webinar from Inside the Matrix. I'm really excited about today. We are going to be talking about Don't Let Bad Code Ruin Your Vibe. And my co-host Rusty and I are just chilling and vibing in our webinar Hawaiian attire. um, there's a lot of cool stuff happening in the AI space today. All of these amazing tools throughout the advent of the creation of the internet, introduction of cloud, introduction of mobility, and now we're in sort of that edge of introduction of AI, and all of these tools along the way have helped us become better, more efficient, and innovate in a more accelerated way. But that still has its risks, just as all the other transformations we've been through have. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today and how to, do vibe coding and talk about coding and code flow without letting security slow you down. So I'm very excited to introduce my partner in crime today, Rusty from Checkmarx. Rusty, tell us a little bit about yourself and something fun about why you have that cool shirt on.
Thank you, Nam. I'm glad you invited me to this. I think this is a great opportunity for us to talk. I'm well into kind of 30 years of a combination of software development, leading development teams, doing software security consulting, and currently my role here that I've had at Checkmarx for the past 8 years is Director of Solutions Engineering. So I've got a team of solutions engineers. We go out and help customers to address their application security needs with a portfolio of products that we offer here at Checkmarx. A fun thing about my Hawaiian gear is I've actually got quite a bit of it because I was fortunate enough to get married in Hawaii on the beach, and absolutely beautiful place. A great place to not only get married, but to go back to on a regular basis and remember those good times.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. So we covered a little bit about that. We told you a little bit about Rusty. Those of you who don't know me, I'm Nim Nataraja. I'm the CISO as well as managing partner here at CriticalMatrix. We are honored to be amazing partners with Checkmarx, helping transform and accelerate how organizations are creating and improving their code. And one of the things that, you know, I'm excited to cover today too is that security in most cases when you talk to business leaders is almost seen as an impediment. It's like, hey man, security is slowing us down. It's a common theme. Like you want to go fast but you can't go securely, and that is actually a misnomer. You can go fast and you can go securely. And one of the things we want you to take away from this webinar is understanding, even though there are risks to using vibe coding, how do you make that coding journey secure and try to trap these mistakes, errors, challenges sort of in line and in flow so that you're able to remediate them and still keep up your speed and get to your end result. So with that, Rusty, maybe you could chime in a little bit and let's talk about the speed at which software is being built today and how we can help organizations understand the risks associated with that.
Absolutely. So software has come a long way. Kind of going back to the earliest of my career writing software, I was in that stage where a lot of the financial industry, which I was supporting at the time, was very much still dependent on a lot of the software that was in the mainframe. Still, I think of all the code I've written in my career, probably the COBOL code that I wrote is the only code that is still actively running today that I would have written well over 30 years ago. It's unbelievable how a lot of our infrastructure kind of stays the same for those back-end, high-end transactions. But a lot of it modernized. It was more of the customer-facing and user experience type of approaches that needed to be done there. So as that approach moved forward, we had new coding methodologies that came into play. Suddenly, Agile was kind of the latest, greatest way of writing code. and the methodologies around what used to be more of a waterfall approach of let's go through a long development cycle, a long QA cycle, and do a release maybe once or twice a year as big major releases. Suddenly now you look at organizations like Amazon and Google, it literally is pushing out lines of code changes all throughout the day. Every few seconds, a new build is being pushed out to Amazon. And so the speed of development has just absolutely increased over time. And now we've got AI that's entered the picture, and you don't have your developers writing all the code. You actually have AI writing a good bit of the code as well. AI coding has been embraced really, really strong and is only increasing and picking up. And with that being said, this concept of vibe coding, just to give a little history on this, um, is something that's new, and it kind of originated from a Twitter post, or X post as it is now, of one of the engineers saying, that the idea is you finally kind of give the vibe to the code. You just go and kind of explain to it what you want. So, kind of a little question for the audience here, if you want to enter it into the chat. What is kind of the newest, latest, and greatest programming language? What's the hottest new programming language? Just drop your guess out in the chat.
While we wait for them to chime in with their answers, um, what's really interesting to talk about is everyone is always quick to jump to the negative and the risks associated with um, AI and how we're going to use it. But we all forget that, there's a lot of positives that's come out of this. So it looks like we've got natural language as a suggestion in terms of the greatest risk of, or the latest new code. And then another person said whatever Gemini gives back based on my prompt.
And Dave is on the right track there. I would say the latest and hottest and newest language for programming is English. Right now, we essentially will just talk to our whatever our AI LLM of choice is and have it write the code for us. And developers have fully embraced this to the extent that it can be a great way forward, in that you're developing very quickly. You have AI coding kind of helping write your code and using some of the ways that coding has been done. But there are inherent risks with this. And one of the biggest problems with AI generating your code is it will confidently put insecure code in your application. It will confidently expose all of your secrets. No problem with that. And you might ask, well, why is it doing that? Why would it actually do something that's hurting me in the end? And the way that these large language models were trained is they went out and took what was publicly available from either open source development, open publicly available code bases, any kind of information that it could possibly feed into there. And essentially, what it did is it was trained on very, very poor coding practices and very insecure coding practices. So it has no problem writing something that works functionally. It will work exactly what you asked it to do. It looks like it worked great. So you go and deploy it, and then you get a nice little surprise that you've just exposed a lot more than you thought you were exposing when it comes to security.
You know what somebody told me, Rusty? AI doesn't write bad code. It just auto generates regret.
Nice.
So that's kind of cool. Um, New threats, right? This is all reality of the AI ecosystem we're in. Deep fakes, automation hijacks, prompt injections, um, misclassifications. There's a lot of bad things that we could focus on. um it's like always talking about the crime statistics, but never looking into, like, can I get a better door? Can I get better locks? Can I, do put in a better camera system? So like I said earlier, it's easy to focus on the negative without actually understanding what you can do to harness the power of, what's producing some of these negative outcomes, but actually lean into the benefits that you do want out of it, right? um you mentioned earlier that there are ways to get around this. And I want to talk a little bit about the invisible threats behind sort of the what you think is clean code that AI is giving you.
And not only is it generating a lot of these vulnerabilities that are very well known, very common. When I first got into application security consulting and when the original OWASP top 10 list came out, the items that you find on there, very much like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, these were problems that I didn't expect we would still have this many years later. I really thought that these items would be addressed. It'd just be a matter of awareness, maybe some extra coding libraries to be put out there to just kind of sanitize data a little bit more. And while we have definitely made strides in the right direction, I feel like we do have a lot more libraries that we can reuse that will help with a lot of that sanitation. The problem is still very prevalent. And I feel like we took a step backwards when AI started writing our code because the usage of those libraries that we suddenly was really kind of getting ahead of the curve, it was not using them by default. And if you didn't explicitly write your application in such a way that you're essentially telling it, I want you to develop an application that does X or Y, oh, and make it secure by doing X, Y, Z, all this knowledge of what the AppSec security engineers have learned over the years, then it's just going to go write it and make sure it works and not really think about security. So that's where the problem really kind of lies, is how we have AI generated code that is secure. And because the problem exists today, we have to have a solution for it.
But Rusty, we peer review all our code, and we've been doing this for decades. Like, don't you think our peer review process is going to find all the challenges that may be raised by AI?
So it's interesting you say that because what's happening now from the field is the companies that have a peer review process are getting frustrated because now they want to know, what if this peer review was code that you as a developer wrote versus what is code that was AI generated? Because they're finding well over 80% of the AI generated code has got vulnerabilities associated with it.
And do you think, I mean, just curious question, can a human find some of these vulnerabilities? If you're a really good coder, are you going to find it?
Your more experienced developers will be able to pick up on it in a code review. The thing that seems to be trending more and more now is the more junior developers that come in without that coding experience have become reliant on the AI LLM to write it in such a way that they are not able to spot it quite as quickly. So then you're required to make sure that your more senior staff, which is often paid more, is having to look at every single bit of the code that's being generated, and that can be expensive over time.
That makes sense. Like AI is going to help us code faster. But the biggest question that, any dev team lead or anyone responsible for the output here is going to ask is, can we keep up with the security at the same time at the pace we were doing it before? And do we have the controls in place to uh, catch these mistakes and correct them? And that's great because that's exactly what we're going to be diving into next, right? We're going
Right.
to talk a little bit about our DevAssist platform. So tell me a little bit about that Checkmark DevAssist and how it
Sure.
works.
So Checkmarx Developer Assist is an agentic AI approach that we have taken that will allow you to have right in the developer's IDE where they write their code. So they're not having to juggle a lot of different tools. It's right here where they live, to be able to scan their code in real time. And if it's AI generated code, it will immediately indicate that it has picked up vulnerabilities. And it's not restricted to just the AI code generated. If they write something insecure themselves, it also is kind of giving them a security check on that as well. The real-time nature of it is just amazing. And one of the things that I really like about what Developer Assist does is not only does it identify where the vulnerabilities are, but you can ask the agentic AI with the MCP technology is what we're using to make this work, to go out there, fix the vulnerabilities for you, actually go and review the code, test the code. If it finds that it needs to refactor your code, it does the concept of what we call a safe refactor, where it will go and actually change all of the code that might be using a particular malicious library or an insecure library or an insecure method, or maybe secrets being exposed. And it'll rewrite the code in such a way that it is securely written and tested to verify that it truly has solved your problem while keeping your functionality in place.
So we're going to use AI to supervise AI to find AI's mistakes by using AI. Rise of the machine, man.
Absolutely. Yep. So use AI that's not very good at writing secure code to talk to AI that is an expert at writing secure code and get them to kind of fact check against each other. And it works out very well.
That's really neat. So with our Dev Assist, the advantage is you're able to find these things in real time and correct them without having to slow down in terms of, don't break your flow. That's what you said. So
Exactly.
what are some examples, buddy? Like, the audience wants to know. It sounds great. We're going to use AI to control AI, write better, take bad AI written code, find its gaps, and remediate it. But how has this worked before?
Yeah, so let's put it into kind of a real world scenario. This is a fictional company, but very much the experience that I'm about to talk you through here is real world. So this is a situation where you've got a startup and they need to get out on the marketplace to make some money quickly. So they've hired them a team of developers. It's a small team, but they have to get this written quickly. So they have fully embraced using AI assisted coding tools. This particular application is for a company called Byteseed, and it is a social media platform for gardeners to be able to kind of share tips and tricks and learn how to make their garden flourish. They don't have any kind of security reviews and they don't do any kind of secure coding checks. This is weekly updates. This team is putting code out there, basically innovation without any guardrails.
I mean, it's when you look at this from a employee engagement perspective, or from the perspective of how are you going to get the next generation of developer talent into your organization, to be able to vibe code is going to be an expectation, right? Yes, we've got processes, we've got best practices. Welcome to the enterprise. You have to do things our way. We're not a startup anymore. But at some point, even when you're a bigger company like a bank, an insurance company, or in some sort of regulated industry, you still need to um, allow people to work with some modern tools, right?
Right.
Um, I really like the scenario you shared. Um, so let's talk about the other end of this. So how does it look like when something bad happens?
So this is the blind side for Byteseed. They put code out there. It's got a small injection vulnerability that has slipped in there as a result of some of the AI coding that we're doing. And now they've exposed 2 million users' private data to the world. And it was all because of this insecure line of code. All the progress they made, getting code out there quickly, being excited that they've got this out there, and now the users don't trust their platform anymore because they've just been breached and exposed.
Hmm. And so how would using something like a dev assist have helped somebody in this scenario?
So in this scenario, had they been using Developer Assist, they would run um, basically the tool would be checking their code as they're writing it. In this situation, we had an insecure line of code that was breaching data from the database. And with this one coding error, it would have immediately identified it, offered suggestions on how to fix it, actually fixed it for them, and then before they ever committed the code to their repository to push to production, the code would have been remediated and it would have not been able to be breached.
Wow. So in a lot of these scenarios, personal experience of mine as well is when devs are doing this, they are not really looking at the larger ramification or impact to the organization, right? Oh, okay, I vibe coded, and yes, there was some bad code. Don't worry, I'll back it out, I'll fix it, and I'll rebuild that stream, and we'll merge it, right? But a lot of chaos ensues after something bad happens because of a piece of vibe code.
Yep.
And that can be very demoralizing to the people that are also on the development team, but other people within the organization as well. And sometimes your end customer. So what does that look like?
So essentially, ByteSeed goes into panic mode at this point because now they're all over the headlines. They open up their latest news feed of whatever they like to read, and they keep seeing ByteSeed, but it's bad press because they've basically exposed all of their data. So the engineering team freezes all the releases. We're not pushing out any code till we get to the bottom of this. Legal and PR scrambling. Developers have lost all confidence in their AI tools. So now they're like, I don't trust using AI coding tools anymore because they're putting bad code out there. So now that speed has turned into a liability.
Yeah. Um, and you thought you were getting value from going faster, but you actually now have slowed down 100%.
Yes.
um, Dev assist.
Yes. And essentially, the next big move for them is they have discovered Checkmarx. They've taken DevAssist and they put it inside of their development pipeline. Now it is very much a part of the developer's natural workflow. So
Oh, did they
because
attend
they
our last
consider it,
webinar on this? Is that why they got it?
they must have. Yes, they took our advice. ByteSeed was like, man, we should have gone to your webinar before this happened.
There you go.
But because it lives in the IDE, I think that's also been a really big win for the development community because they don't want to have to go into I'm writing software mode and then go into let me check and see if it's secure mode or have to worry about the security. It's very much an afterthought. And by putting it inside of the very place they're writing code in real time, if something gets written insecurely, either by AI or the developer themselves, for them to immediately know about it and be able to remediate it quickly and move on to the next thing that they have on their plate. No developer out there wants to write bad code. It's just a matter of either speed getting in the way of really kind of doing your due diligence or the lack of knowledge. They may not know they're
Mm,
writing it insecurely. And if they're depending on AI, like I said at the beginning of this webinar, it will confidently say that it is absolutely sure this is good code, secure, no problem. And then it be absolutely messy. An
I
example of how confident these hallucinations can be is recently my daughter, who's 10, she is having to learn all of her states and capitals. And so I kind of wrote her a quick little vibe coded application that she can run on her iPad that essentially will quiz her. It'll show a map of the United States, highlight a state, and she has to basically pick from multiple choice what's the name of the state and what's the capital. And it's really helped her to learn that. But even in the process of vibe coding that app, it would pop up the state of Alabama, and then it would say that the answer is Alaska. And it's like, okay, I've got to go in and actually verify that it's not hallucinating and telling me the wrong thing, because I don't want her thinking that Alabama is Alaska when she takes the test.
this is a bias that people tend to forget about how artificial intelligence, especially uh, some of the GPT tools we have access to today, they have a bias that the tools will respond in an affirmative way so that you hear what it thinks you want to hear. And it takes a really well written prompt to kind of steer AI away from telling you what you want to hear. And the same thing happens when, I've got friends who are, driving and talking to different AI tools, and it's like a companion where you can ask questions and just, even learn a language. Apparently, ChatGPT is better at teaching language than Duolingo. So, but again, that bias that it builds in terms of learning about what when it gives you a response, you're like, hey, thank you, that was a great answer, that's exactly what I was looking for. It remembers that and how it got to that logic, and so it's always going to respond back to in a way that it's telling you what you want to hear, but that might not be the truth. And it's these hallucinations that always get us in trouble. I think we have a pretty cool example we want to share with everyone, right, Rusty, in terms of maybe a small showcase.
Yeah, be
So
glad
we'll
to kind
jump
of
into that.
show. what this looks like. Let there be a good chance to do that. Let me bring up my screen. So Nim, let me know if Visual Studio is showing up on your end.
Yes, it is.
All right, so this is VS Code, and we actually have our Checkmarx agentic agent inside of here. I've got kind of a demonstration application that got some nice vulnerabilities inside of it to kind of show off some of the features of this. So kind of starting off, let me just go into this particular file, which has immediately identified very much this little squiggly line here, just like if you're using Word or something like that, where you've written some bad grammar and it says underlying this, and you hover over it and it kind of gives you some insight. Same kind of thing here, but what it's doing is it's actually identifying what the vulnerability is associated with it. So you'll see this little red badge. This means this is a critical finding. This is definitely something you don't want in your code, and
Mm-hmm.
gives you a quick little understanding that this is writing a SQL query in a way that is vulnerable. This is what we call a SQL injection. And you can go in and you can just say view the details of it, and it will go out and kind of tell you what it's all about, what this is. But even more important than that, you can say fix this, and a developer assist will go in and fix it. So let me click this and get it kind of running. And what it's doing over here on the right side, this is kind of your LLM chat. We're using a Copilot in this case. And it's using the LLM agent Claude Sonnet 4, along with our MCP Checkmarx tool, which is essentially taking all of the security knowledge and everything that you need from understanding application security and all of the knowledge that Checkmarx has learned over the years, in incorporating that into fixing your code. So it says, oh, yep, I've identified this is definitely a SQL injection vulnerability on line 256. It knows what the programming language is. So it says, knowing what this language is, let me go in and remediate this code for you. So it says, here's the steps I'm taking. I'm analyzing the code, making sure that we're using it. And we want to actually take the recommended solution of using parameterized queries instead of string concatenation, which that's exactly the right approach you want to do to fix this type of SQL injection. It goes in and actually makes the change, rewrites the code, goes and checks to see that it didn't break something else. Because a lot of times, if you're using a tool that's got kind of tunnel vision and only looks at the one file that it's analyzing,
Mm-hmm.
it can easily be breaking it in other files. But this, because it's doing the approach of kind of a safe refactor, looks at all the files in your whole project and says, what else do I need to change to make sure this doesn't break it? Then it'll actually compile it and test it and see if there's any errors. And it says, nope, no errors. So I think this fix has solved the problem. And then it'll summarize exactly what it did. It solved this high severity SQL injection, shows you what files were modified, where the modifications were done. So this is great from this concept of, if I have AI code that's being changed, what has it done? Summarize it for me so I know what happened. And then it'll do and kind of do a quick little security analysis on it, make sure it's looking good, and remediation complete. And I think what's really important about this as well is it gives you the option of keeping the changes that it's done or undoing it. And I didn't like what you did. And that's really great because it keeps the human interaction in the loop so that it's not just blindly making changes that you're accepting. You really have an opportunity to review it first.
That's really cool. Now, Rusty, question: if I use vibe coding to create a function or something that can be shared across multiple libraries, does this fix every occurrence of that problem, or does it just fix the one occurrence that I had open, in my current session?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. In this scenario, that really only applied to this part of the code, but a good example of what you're defining would be inside of this um, uh, particular like package.json, where we know we're bringing in dependencies and we're using open source packages. The
Mm-hmm.
news has been riddled recently with supply chain attacks, some of them malicious. Chalk, for example, this is a library that is a very reputable library. It's been used for a long time by a lot of developers, prevalent in a lot of code, and it's been perfectly fine up until this version that is in this particular project. And you'll notice that it's not just said this is vulnerable, but this is malicious. And it's actually got like a little malicious icon to represent that different. And what happened was the developer of this library was breached by a phishing attack. And someone took over his code base because he fell victim to phishing, and they went in and took all the libraries that he had a strong reputation for, put malicious code in there. And this malicious code had the intent of going out, monitoring your browser if you tried to do any kind of Bitcoin transactions or anything with cryptocurrency where it could steal your crypto. This was a big press, a big scramble. Everybody that was out there that was affected by this using these libraries was immediately like, I need to know if we're using these, if we're using a version that's vulnerable or not. And as you can see here, our research team would have had this out within 24 hours of the breach to go and immediately identify it. And when you do the fix in this situation, um, you're actually going in and you're looking at this chalk library, which could be used across several different instances, several different files. And as it replaces that, that can be a big impact to your application, especially if there's no known fix, like just upgrading to the latest version. What if you have to replace that with a similar library? This will go and do the research and identify exactly what the best approach is to keep the same functionality that you were using from that library, but yet give it a much more secure library that has not been breached.
That's really neat. That's really, really neat. The next question that comes to mind is, uh, from a ecosystem perspective, is this deployed once, use many, deployed individually? Um, how does a team take advantage of this?
So the best way a team to take advantage of it is this IDE plugin is available on the VS Code Marketplace. And we also support Cursor and Windsurf, and rapidly expanding to a lot of the other AI popular IDEs that are out there. And just a matter of bringing it in from the marketplace, they are able to take advantage and use this technology, and it links directly into our Checkmarx One platform, which is a holistic security platform. Checkmarx offers to do everything from scanning your source code, scanning your containers, scanning infrastructure as code, DAS scanning. It's all included in this one platform to give you a full ASPM of knowing exactly what your vulnerabilities are. So this is just a piece of a much bigger picture with our Checkmarx One solution.
That's really neat. And of course, I got to ask this question because everyone's probably thinking it. Is there a way to try this before we need to buy it?
We do offer trials and do proof of values with our customers. And so if you are interested, we'll be glad to kind of do more of a targeted demo, show you exactly how this could apply to your industry. And if you want to get your hands on it, we can go through a proof of value process. We absolutely could do that.
That's very cool. And we play it nicely in the sandbox, assessing other platforms as well. So if you are using a competitive product, the Checkmarx Dev Assist tool doesn't conflict with anything else, right?
It doesn't. You can actually use this in the capacity of integrated with our Checkmarx One platform, or what we have coming very soon, should be out in the next month or two, is a developer assist that doesn't actually have to have the Checkmarx One platform to run. And essentially, you can use that as kind of a starting point, or if you want to mix it in with some other products, that gives you the capability of getting the advantage of using all of the features I've demonstrated today without a dependency of having the full Checkmarx One platform.
That's awesome. I want to ask the audience to think about some questions. If you have any top of mind that you want to answer, in the meanwhile, one of the things that I want to say is this is, in my opinion, a real game changer because for years we've sort of beat our development teams up to follow up a certain process and a certain template to build what we think is secure coding in terms of their approach and really scrutinizing the libraries they're allowed to use. And a lot of organizations have said, yeah, you can't use open source and you kind of have to go with different sets of code to do that. So this is really a game changer. But the good news is we're allowing people to be innovative, we're allowing people to be creative, but giving that full flexibility and autonomy. Um, but now there's some security guardrails in place that we can detect, remediate, and also suggest in a very expedited manner that gives us the company using a DevAssist a significant competitive advantage, right? Um, so any questions from our amazing audience to talk about that you'd like Rusty or I to answer? While we're waiting for that, any questions from the audience, Rusty? Who are some of the, like, give me some examples, not specifically names, but industries, here in Canada that are using Checkmarx?
There's retail and financial, and I believe some insurance companies as well. So we have definitely got a wide range of usage across that. I know from a government perspective, the Canadian government is also interested. So we've got some discussions taking place there. And because we have quite a bit of our US federal government that is users of the Checkmarx One um, platform and also our CXAST platform that we have had that's our on-premise solution. They are all very interested as they embrace AI in leveraging a lot of the stuff that the Developer Assist can offer. So that version of Checkmarx One Developer Assist that doesn't require Checkmarx One, which we're actually just calling Developer Assist, is going to open up the market to a lot of those on-premise customers as well.
That's right. And fun fact for everyone attending, a lot of people don't know this, but back in I think 2005 or 2006, when the concept of SaaS first came out, it was Checkmarx that actually invented the concept. You were the OG in sort of creating a SaaS-based application, static application security platform, and you were kind of first to market. And since then, of course, there have been other organizations that have popped up, but you've maintained the ability to be a market leader. You've maintained the ability to always be on that innovative edge, and lead with your security arm, so that you're continuing to offer the taking a security first approach.
Yeah, one thing I can say is having worked for several different application security vendors over my career, the thing that I was really kind of been a great thing about working at Checkmarx is we build a lot of our own stuff. And we not only build it, but we use it to kind of eat our own dog food, so to speak. And because we're not just kind of a collection of products that were either acquired or leveraging just whatever's out in the open source world, it gives us an advantage that when we write something, we've written it with intention, with real requirements, and we're meeting what we need to meet as a result of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. We do have a question from the audience. What is the typical integration timeline look like, and what is the time to contact, the time to uh, look and get the context and code review for a brand new deployment?
From an integration standpoint, it's just a matter of, from a developer experience, of downloading the plugin from the marketplace, installing it, and if they're using Checkmarx One as well, just linking their API key for Checkmarx One. That gives them the full capability of everything I demonstrated to be able to do that real-time scanning of the code. So from the moment they're writing their very first line of code, it's actually doing security checks and checking for them if it's secure or not. And then as far as that approach of what do you need to do from a code review for a new deployment, you've got that option of doing it, but everything we've talked about is all pre-commit. This is before it even hits the repository. So you're not ever putting bad code in your repository if you're leveraging these products.
There you go. Fantastic. So, as we wrap up, the key takeaway, um, Rusty, can I conclude to say that security shouldn't kill the vibe, and it should really just amplify it? And with our Dev Assist platform, we're allowing teams to code with confidence and code securely.
I think you've summed it up very well, Nim.
And there we go. So keep shipping, keep innovating, keep vibing. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. We really appreciate you. And if there's any last minute questions, whatnot, feel free to email us. And Rusty and I are always here to help you and support you in any way possible.
Thank you everyone for coming, and thank you, Nam. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Take care.